All right, here we go. Tino is on his phone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's doing.
Oh, I'm doing my thing.
All right. So,
How you doing?
real quick, guys.
Playing Tetris.
We're starting a little earlier than normal, and but my main thing is the fact that we are here. We're excited, and there's a fourth person in the fire. There's a fourth person. We have Pastor Carlos, who's a great friend of ours. You are from. Well, just introduce yourself, brother.
What's up, everybody? My name's Carlos. I'm from the beautiful big city of Hanford, California, and I am currently pastoring over there, me and my wife, over at New Hope Living Word. And we're actually the campus pastors, and so we've been there for a little while, and so we're friends. I've been friends with David and Angel for a while. We go back, been good buddies to me and good brothers, and they invited me to be on, so I'm always happy to come chop it up.
Amen. Well, welcome
here, man.
Welcome to Let's Just Talk. As you guys know, we have Angel here.
Episode 9.
And then on this side, we have Tino.
What's happening?
Well,
Wish this internet was working.
it's still not working?
This thing won't turn on. Of all times.
Did you restart your thing? Because this thing is live streaming, so it's...
Yeah, I don't know. It's crapple.
What service do you got?
AT&T. But it's worked every other time, you know what I mean? Yeah. Today I want it to work. Crapple products, you know what I mean? Sorry.
Well, anyways, guys, here we are. As you guys know, Let's Just Talk is for members only. And if you're watching this and you're not a member, it's because you watched it after the fact. And because what happens is we record live, we're streaming live, and those that are members, monthly members of this channel, get to chime in, and you can comment. If you are watching this and you are live, comment, take advantage of it. We want it to be interactive with you guys, you know. And if you're not a member, just letting you know, every single Tuesday, we go live for members only, and then on the next day, Wednesday, we make it public. So that way everybody can enjoy and watch it. But unfortunately, it's no longer live, so you can't comment. But I mean, you can't comment live, but you can comment on the comments, and we will answer you. Sister Phyllis, hello, how you doing? She's out of West Sac. Sister Phyllis, and she'll get upset if I say Sac. She's from West Sac.
West Sac.
Yeah, whole different thing, man. So so here we go. We're gonna start off. Number one is we're gonna talk about the bombing that we just found out about a couple hours ago in Iran.
Israel.
To Israel. We're gonna talk about how people change, and that's gonna be really interesting. And spiritual leaders, fallen spiritual leaders, and we're gonna be talking about that. So this Iran bombing, man, let's start there. First of all, so actually, I didn't even know about it. Actually, Sister Phyllis, she's the one that sent, look at her. She's a Broderick. She's gangbanging up on here. No, but the Iran bombing, I knew that it was coming. They had been saying it was coming. Actually, Sister Phyllis sent a link to me, and it was from somebody in Israel. And they didn't even know how many yet. So you guys probably have, I've been sitting here setting up and whatnot. So who has the most information about what's been going on?
AP reports 180. I've heard up to 400 missiles.
Yeah.
In those attacks, I've also heard some landed, nothing that was of detriment. There was a Palestinian that was injured from shrapnel from the reports. As far as that was coming through, but the escalation of that, from my understanding, is that Iran declared war.
Oh, they did officially.
Yes, that's from my understanding. Yeah, that they declared war with Israel, and so that was the escalation of that. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of moving parts that are happening around it that I've heard. I've heard 4 aircraft carriers are on their way to the Middle East, United States military.
I did see the Pentagon gave an official statement. Mm-hmm. I was watching.
I was looking for it. I couldn't find it.
I was watching it as I was pulling up here, but I was like doing a bunch of stuff at once, so I didn't get to finish it. But I know the Pentagon gave an official thing that they were standing behind Israel, and they had told Israel, I guess they had got intelligence that bombings were coming.
Yeah.
Your internet? Did you get it working?
No, not yet. I'm on my phone. That's why you see me on my phone, because this was brand new news to me, man.
Well, it just happened, actually.
Yeah.
The Israeli military said it intercepted a large number of 180 ballistic missiles launched by Iran, but that there were isolated impacts in central and southern Israel. The IRGC said that 90% of the projectiles fired hit their targets. So 90%, I'm guessing, if I'm reading this correctly, 90% of those missiles, wherever they were headed,
The Iron Dome.
they hit wherever they needed to hit.
Oh, they did hit.
Yeah, that's what it says. 90% of the projectiles fired hit their targets.
Oh, wow.
What does that mean from the Iron Dome?
Oh, wait, what? Because usually they have the Iron Dome that they
yeah,
intercept
that's what
every
I
single
think.
missile.
I think it's a reference of the Iron Dome connecting.
Oh, the Iron Dome. Though they stopped 90%
Yeah,
of
they
them.
said the United States had brought down. I don't know if it was 12 or 14 of those missiles,
Okay. Like I said,
along with other allies.
So Angel had just told you about it?
Yeah. He just. I barely found out from Angel like an hour ago.
215, like at 215.
Well, yeah, I was on my way over here, and that's when Sister Phyllis had sent me this link, and there's this dude in Israel, and he's just like, hey, they just sent some bombs over, and
Yeah.
so I was just, and like I said, I didn't get to finish watching it, but, real quick, guys, Jesus warned about this. And he even said, what does he say? And I'm probably hitting this too early, but he said there will be wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah.
And that'll be the sign that the end is coming. And I think a lot of times for us as Christians, sometimes we go overboard and freak out. And yeah, man, I mean, nobody wants war to happen. Nobody wants these things to happen. But the fact is this, don't get surprised. And real quick, people are, it's the end, it's the end. And I mean, these are the signs of the times. These are the signs. And the scripture clearly says, Jesus himself said it. So not only is it authoritative biblically, it's authoritative out of the mouth of Jesus that there will be rumors of wars and rumors of wars. And so, but I do think that, the president, or what is he, prime minister or president of Israel? What is the prime minister? Netanyahu?
Netanyahu.
Yeah, I know that much.
Yeah, I know that
Hold on.
I'm not sure their structure.
from the very beginning, man, when Hamas came in, he said, we will find the people that did it, the leadership that did it, and we will not stop. And I remember he did this speech, I don't know where he did it at, but he says, we will find you, I don't care where in the world you're at. And he has...
That's confident.
Oh, he's kept true to it.
Yeah.
He has kept true to it, I was just today hearing you told me about the pager, the pager thing. Did you know about that?
No.
Yeah.
Trip off this, like you explain it.
Okay. So I maybe a couple years ago, I guess all of the different, tentacles reaching out of Iran as far as the terrorist organizations, they were telling their people, we're not using cell phones anymore, iPhones, cell phones, anything like that, because they can be tracked. And so they were concerned about that. So they went to pagers. So they they placed an order, from my understanding, with the Swedish company that produced these pagers. Well, if you ever
So that way they can communicate without us intercepting,
exactly,
or Israel intercepting.
exactly, without Israel intercepting, or the United States for that matter,
because they're allies.
Exactly. And so, if you remember the episode in Ocean's 12, where they sent two guys to Mexico, the two brothers, and they're working in the dice factory to change the chemical base of the dice so that when they came to the casinos, they could control them, right? To the dice, there was a chemical they put in there to change the composition of it. So I just thought it was funny because what Israel did is they took that idea. So they placed this order from the manufacturers. They're getting their chips and everything else from a different resource. They took that resource, whatever it was, the chips. They put a bomb in the chip. So the manufacturer was completely unaware of it.
How do you put a bomb in a little pager, though?
I have no idea.
Oh.
But they did. And they sent it back. They sent it out because Israel's thing was, we're going to cut the head off the snake, but we're not sure who is that head.
Who's the snakehead?
So we'll let them distribute it out to all of their main people. And this was several hundred pagers.
That's insane.
They shipped it out, gave it to whoever they gave it, and at the same time, several weeks back, about 3 weeks ago, all of them exploded at the same time all over the world.
Like, did they explode enough to kill somebody?
They blew off legs. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
There was even
A little pager. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Well, I heard today. I was watching a podcast and they were talking about it, but not in so much detail. And
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, these pagers, and I was like, what?
That's pretty crazy.
That's wild, right?
When did this happen?
This is like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so what they found is some of the people that had pagers that exploded were government officials for other countries.
So why
So-
did they have? Yeah. So
Why did you have the pager?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like when you
The story unfolds.
It's like
Yep.
when you stick a water hose inside a gopher hole,
Yep.
and you see where the water comes out at.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
That was their plan. And so they went like, okay, if you're going to cause fear, we're going to cause fear. And so that escalated up until Netanyahu recently was at the UN giving a speech.
Yeah.
And so at the same time he's giving a speech, they bomb Hezbollah capital in Lebanon. I think was it Lebanon?
What's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Lebanon.
Oh, wasn't it Syria?
no. When Netanyahu was giving his speech at the UN,
Oh, yeah.
they bombed the headquarters in Lebanon of Hezbollah. So you had both of these things. So the reaction from Iran today is a culmination of what's been happening over the last few weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, we got to be honest. Is that Iran bombing is a response back
Yeah.
of what Israel did, not only with the pagers, but yeah, this is crazy because how many of you have seen Godfather?
Yeah, of course.
Seen Godfather? Remember at the end of the movie, like all the enemies get accumulated, and then like the Godfather will be like at a wedding or he'll be at the church, and while he's there, all kinds of killings happen.
Yeah.
Like he just starts like straight Godfather, like he's here and everybody's getting taken out. This is what the Israeli Prime Minister did. He's given a speech to the United Nations. While he's doing that, the entire leadership of Hezbollah got just wiped off the planet.
Yeah.
That's insane.
What and I think today they were saying as far as his approval ratings in Israel is like maybe in the low 30s.
Yeah.
So Israel citizens are not in approval because they want those that were captured released, and that's not fully happening yet. It's just all out war, and it's just kind of like to Netanyahu. It's like, okay, either we take out who is trying to destroy the nation, and you don't like me, but as long as I'm in office, let's just do this
Yeah.
and see what happens and see where the chips fall.
Hey, Carl, how you doing? God bless. Yeah, so these guys, man, they're playing for real. You know,
And just real quick, just to throw this in, at the same time today, well, this is saying two different places. I don't know on the map, Israel, but one is saying Tel Aviv, one is saying in Jaffa. There was a terrorist attack and seven were murdered in the terrorist attack today. But nobody has claimed responsibility for that yet. So it's not like they're saying Hezbollah.
so you're saying Iran declared war against Israel, but besides that, there's been some terrorist
today?
attacks.
Yes, on the ground in Israel.
Wow. You know, go ahead, Tino. You haven't said nothing.
Oh, I was just going to say, Phyllis said that Putin said Israel needs to withdraw from Lebanon. I wonder where he's sitting at right now and what he's doing.
Putin?
I wonder what's, everything's a smoke show. So, unfortunately, people need to die during a smoke show. And so, what is getting ready with China or, there's so many
Layers.
There's so much that could be going on that all we see is this fight with Israel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's very true, like you said. Don't be surprised, but the thing about it is like what else is going on?
Yeah.
Especially with like Putin. What are you doing? What are you doing? Where are you at? Where are your soldiers? Is everybody standing on guard, ready to go at a drop of a hat? Are they in connection with China? Like, what's happening? What is our country doing? That's
Yeah.
my question, right? What is, I guess right now would be the best time to have a president, right?
Do we have one?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Right now would be a great time to have a president. I'll be president. I'll be president.
Well, you've been more visible.
At least I know what I'm talking about, you know? So I don't know, man. I was just reading what she said. That's very good. I didn't even think about Putin until right now. Like, what are you doing? What's going on over there?
Wow.
That's what I got.
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I think I said this before, but I'm going to say it again, man, is that I remember when I was growing up, it felt like there would be like, let's say, I remember when the 89 earthquake, and everybody was watching the news, and then 9/11, and everybody, but these are far and wide, different, you know, trauma or different things that would happen. You know, you had the Rodney King thing, you had the OJ, but they're far and wide. It feels like every single week there is something crazy going on in this world. You notice
Getting
that?
closer
Yeah.
and closer.
Yeah, you know, and I can't help but to think that it's just,
It feels coordinated.
yeah.
It feels very
But
coordinated.
even though the world's coordinated, what is God coordinated? Because He's never out of control.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
It's never out of His control, you know. And I'm just curious. I guess, like, man, it's going to be more frequent to the point where even the Bible says people are going to be afraid and they're going to want to hide under the rocks.
Mhm.
You know, and doesn't it say that people's hearts will fail?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact quote, but you know what scripture I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of makes you think how you're talking about just the gopher with the water hose.
Yeah.
You know, you're using a different picture that God can use these type of situations to push people out, you know, to expose those who are not really following him. Similar to COVID.
Well,
you know?
yeah, there's a lot of exposure. You got government being exposed. You got P. Diddy being exposed.
Everyone's exposed.
Everyone.
That's another thing, though, man. See, like, I've been seeing stuff, you know, I haven't really jumped into the rabbit hole of it, but they're saying that
Don't do it.
that Diddy is Diddy and everything that's going on with that fool is that that's a smoke show for 23andMe. Have you heard about that? About 23andMe, that there's about 7,000 or something like that, 7 and then 2 zeros or 3 zeros after that 7 of DNA and names and all kinds of information of people that has gotten out into, because that's what they were doing. They were selling information of those people who were sending in for the DNA. And then 23andMe, you don't know what 23andMe?
No, I do, but how are you connecting that with P. Diddy?
Because everybody who owns it all retired. They all left it.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
all left.
And so they're all saying, like, there's a lot of different stuff that's going on. We're not talking about Diddy. We're talking about something else. But anyways, yeah, man. So it's all a smoke show. I'm going back to the smoke show thing.
But real quick, I heard Diddy was refusing to eat because he don't want to get
You
poisoned.
don't want to get poisoned.
Well, but yet they're putting him on suicide watch. That doesn't sound like somebody that's wanting to commit suicide,
No, I think
right? If you're not trying to die,
yeah, I think they're doing it precautionary because it's kind of like being in ICU. You know, in ICU, they're constantly watching you.
yeah.
But by him refusing to eat, it kind of forces him to put him on suicide watch.
Yeah.
But you don't think it has anything to do with the fact that he's in the same prison as right now
As
as
what?
Epstein?
Was he? Is he?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
that
I don't know that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would, but
I mean,
But
they're
that
both,
was making that connection.
well, they're both federal holding.
yeah.
You know, have you ever seen Epstein's cell?
what do you mean by that?
See, when you go to the feds, county jails, they're federal holding, and you basically get one pillow if you get a pillow, one pillow, like 2 pairs of underwear, maybe 2 pants, maybe, but usually the pants you have and the shirt you have, and whatnot. Epstein's cell, he must have had, I'm not exaggerating, 8 pairs of pants. Like he had he had a lot of material it's just weird, right? And then the 2 cameras facing his cell didn't work.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay,
Yeah.
he's in the same jail that R. Kelly was in, and
R. Kelly.
Jesselyn. How do you pronounce her name? Jesselyn Maxwell, the woman that was
yeah,
with
yeah,
Epstein.
The one with Epstein.
So that's
I
the
didn't know
jail
R.
he's
Kelly
in,
was federal.
I didn't either.
Ghislaine?
according to USA Today.
Yeah. Anyways, we don't want to diddy up this conversation.
No. We're talking about Iran and Israel.
Yeah.
No, can I read? Let me read a scripture. I was going through my Bible reading this morning.
Yeah.
And this was before, obviously, as far as all that took place when I found out. And in Isaiah 31, when Isaiah prophesies, and he says, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help and rely on horses, who trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong, but who do not look to the Holy One of Israel, nor seek the Lord." And I was, afterwards, that everything that kind of hit today,
Yeah.
because one of the things that I mentioned to Carlos earlier was all of the ports that closed from Maine to Texas through the Gulf of Mexico.
And that started today too.
Today.
Yeah.
Right?
And so all of this is kind of hitting I haven't confirmed. I've heard that the Panama Canal is closed. So then how are you going to ship, as far as transferring shipments, but the West Coast is open.
Yeah.
And so now you've got all this panic, all this stuff, going on now, as far as food supplies, goods and services, your Temu package is going to be late now. That's just, it is what it is. But with that, we're talking about the Christians as far as the church. How many Christians, I know we talk about faith, and Hebrews 6 says at some point in time we got to grow past just talking about it as an elementary principle. But how many people today that sit in pews that we're ministering to, preach to, talk to online right now or later, that they are in a panic mode
Yeah.
because of, and the anxiety levels and everything else, because we're going to talk later about pastors, but that anxiety level that hits in the life of Christians right now is through the roof. And so you have all of this, and that this scripture came back to me, from earlier this morning, and I said, "Man, Lord, it just how far we've come." Because of what growing up, David, I would imagine you probably felt the same way. As much as stuff happened through the Cold War in the '80s with Reagan,
Yeah. I just watched that movie too.
I never thought we'd be here.
No.
Not at this place. Not to the point that I don't like. I looking around, I'm going, dude, I don't know if I trust my own government. I don't. We didn't grow up with that in mind.
No, we grew up very gung ho,
Very patriotic.
Very patriotic. We the heroes were the Marines and the Army guys and the
good guys.
Navy SEAL. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
the good guys, and every movie we're military. We were always the good guys, and but yeah.
That narrative is not.
Yeah,
not
it's
the one
a
being pushed
weird
no more.
feeling now.
Now we're the bad guys.
Well,
Yeah.
you said something a couple podcasts back. When did the American flag become a Trump flag?
Yeah, I remember we talked when we went camping back then. I remember we touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Yeah, because I think I had an American flag hat on, or something like that.
Yeah.
And you had said, some places people take it like, oh, it's the good old boys, or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation?
Yep, it was the good old boys.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
a lot of I got people in my family who they can't see an American flag without thinking it means Trump. I go, that's pretty powerful that he got the whole flag to himself now.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah.
I find that strange. The thing is, maybe that changed now because even the Democratic Party, when they had the DNC, they had American flags everywhere. Mm-hmm. But that's weird. I have a flag outside my house.
It's not as much as last election.
It's less.
I think so.
I mean, what were they going to do? Were they going to have their pride flag?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just a moron if you were going to do that, man. I mean, you have to have you have to have the country flag there. You might not like it. You might want to burn it. You might want to feel however you want to feel, but they'd be bigger fools than I expected, man, if they didn't have the American flag there. But, it is what it is. You support the American flag, and then you're a Trump fan, which is perfectly fine with me.
Dude, what's crazy is 2020 during the pandemic, we had moved into our house in Manteca in February of 2020. The pandemic hit in March when everything shut down. I ordered an American flag on a pole and everything right outside the front door of my house, probably like in April or May. And I'll never forget, I was, getting ready. I was putting it up, putting the pole up, on the eve of the house, drilling it in. And both my boys come out there, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to do that, Dad?"
Really?
Yeah. And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, what if somebody eggs the house? What if somebody throws rocks? What if somebody, starts messing with the car?"
Wow.
And see, to me, I mean, at the time, 46. So at that time, 44, 43, dude, I wasn't even thinking that. It was my house. I wanted to put an American flag. But to this generation, it means something totally different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different message. And it's crazy. I was at Savers, which is a really big thrift store in Pleasanton or Dublin. And so I'm in there, my mother-in-law, my wife, my son, and they have all this stuff that they're getting, right? But I got to pay. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I thought the patriarch was over, right? I thought this was equality. Why do I got to pay, for all this stuff that ain't even mine? I only got 2 books in that whole basket.
Some things go deeper than...
Yeah.
Carl says that the pride flag is associated with Democrats.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I won't argue.
They embrace it.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
They wanted to light the White House up.
Yep.
With the rainbow colors. So it is what it is.
Just one more thing on the war part. And it was my boys that brought this up to me. This was maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, when Congress was bringing back the conversation of passing a bill for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I know they had talked about it. Well, did they? Because here's the thing is that...
they didn't institute, but they were.
No, but they did something different because after you turn 18, you got to register, and
So,
now it's automatic or something. And a lot of young people were freaking out about it. I'm like, what do you mean? I'd register.
It's what we all did
when I turned 18. But here's the thing: I remember Sharon tripped out when Abraham turned 18. She's like, "Why are they making him?" I was like, "Whoa. This is normal."
Yeah.
We all had. She was. I never registered the other boys. I'm like, they were supposed to at 18 at the post office. Do you remember that?
High school.
You didn't either?
I didn't.
We didn't. I did in high
You
school.
didn't know about
I
that?
didn't. I've heard of it.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was never a thing that was like, I need to go do this.
Dude, they came into our
Where I
classroom.
was at 18 is nowhere near
Yeah. The
what I'm
what?
supposed to be doing.
Were you in high
Oh,
school?
yeah.
Were you? Did you?
No, I wasn't in school at all.
Okay, so that's why.
Yeah, I was out there.
I remember turning 18 and going to the post office, and you just put your name, your address, something like, and you sign it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you just register. I forgot what it's called. But
Selective service.
Yeah, selective
Register
service.
for selective service.
But were they talking about a draft, or were people freaking out and thinking that was?
No, they were talking about a draft.
Oh,
Not instituting a draft, but updating the regulations
No, I
for
see.
a draft. And it was kind of like, okay, what's the coincidence of the timing?
yeah.
What does our government know that's coming down the pipe that they would feel that they have to begin to, pull
Implement
this
that.
out and implement it and have the conversation before it's too late?
I mean, well, I have a question. You have young boys.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel just hearing that talk?
I mean, obviously, it's a scary thing to go to play it out.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, how old are your boys?
14 and 11.
Does it scare you with the way the
12.
world is going? Having boys that they're gonna hit that 18 quick.
You know what? I guess if I think about it from that lens, I'm more touched by just the culture in general.
Yeah.
That is shifting, especially in relation to Christ. So I know that that's a thing. It could happen. I don't overly trip on it, though.
Yeah. I'm just asking because I know you have, like, my boys are already older.
Mm-hmm.
Are yours?
I have a 17 and a 15.
So that affects you too.
Yeah, but we have daily conversations on
Okay.
a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And, the 2 older ones got to deal with my dumbness, for the lack of better words. And so the 2 younger ones, we have more adult conversations, even though they're 17. I mean, my 17-year-old he's ahead of his time, but and then my 15-year-old, he understands a lot of stuff. So when all this first started, I opened up the floodgates, and we just started talking. And so
Yeah.
they know they're going to hear exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And they know where I stand. And so I ask them how they feel. So I keep it open communication so that way they don't get confused. At least they're learning something. I always pray that the spirit in this home goes out to the world instead of the world coming into this house.
That's
So
right. That's right.
That's why if I can keep that conversation with my two young men, it'll be really good.
Shout out to Cholo Trucker. This is a personal invite to be in on one of these, brother. I would love to have you as a guest. I know that you like to talk about different subjects, and this is a personal invite to you, man. Just let me know. It's on we always do it on a Tuesday. So what are we talking about next? What's
How people change, Carlos.
Yeah, so we have our guest here, Pastor Carlos. He's been a dear friend to us, and he deals a lot. He's worked in prisons, a nonprofit. You've been a pastor. You've been everything to do with dealing with people, relationships. So I asked you because I said, you know what? We don't want just you as a guest. We want you to introduce something that maybe we wouldn't have talked about. And you brought up the subject of how people change. And I thought that was a good subject. So you're going to have to kick it off and tell us in what way. In what way are you talking about?
Yeah, no problem. And I'll just give you just a recent situation. So I do groups for an outpatient service, and some words that were said. Someone was sharing their heart. They're being open and vulnerable, and they're crying. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. He said, but I don't know how. I don't know how to change.
Are these like somebody in drugs or somebody out of prison or somebody that just...
All the above.
Oh, everything.
All the above. Anyone in the legal system, whether it be Child Protective Services or whether it be parolees. My caseload's all parolees. So it's basically people who got in the system somehow. Very few are there voluntarily.
Is it mandatory that they talk to you?
Yeah.
Like court ordered
Like
in a
court
sense?
ordered?
Yeah.
Or parole?
Yeah. Or else, yeah.
Well, let me ask for this for clarification. I think I know, but just so those that are listening, this is not a faith-based institution. This is completely secular as far as just...
Yeah, it's secular. So it's but there is freedom there because we have a great executive that gives us that freedom. He doesn't push anything, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's a man of faith himself. And so he definitely allows for that freedom. Yeah. And so it's cool. We're able to like, if you go down our hallways, you'll see things of faith and stuff like that. So when it comes down to how people change, it's a real topic from people who don't have Christ, because I'm dealing with a lot of people who don't know the Lord. They don't come from this background. They come from addiction, they broken homes. Yeah. And they're like, how do I change? Especially like, talk about, all this stuff from politics to everything on social media, the confusion, the disintegration of the family, lack of fathers in the home. I mean, what are people supposed to believe? You asked me about my boys, being young. It's like, man, I can only imagine people who don't have any direction in their life. They have no one pointing the way. Like you said, I want to influence them to go out with what we believe instead of coming in. A lot of people don't have that. And you can see that people have a very fragmented thinking. Very fragmented thinking. They don't even know which way to go.
You had mentioned something in the text. You had said, I don't want to look for it, but basically the beliefs that the system creates. And it made me think about schools. It made me think about teachers. It made me think of music, movies, even things that the government supports that normalizes that which shouldn't be normal, so when people change, is it hard though? Because, okay, perfect example. You brought up the flag, and you said the new generation sees it as completely different. When did that change happen? When did the indoctrination happen to say the flag is wrong, or Jesus is wrong, or whatever it is? Yeah. Like, how do you break these sacred cows?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it just goes down to that word deconstruction. People started deconstructing faith. People started deconstructing America. People started deconstructing and going backwards and trying to fill in those gaps. And I think that happened, and I know we're going to talk about it later, because of fallen leaders, bad examples. Yeah. And I think it causes suspicion.
Well, I remember growing up thinking, I can't wait to grow up and go to prison and be in a gang.
I know that was my... I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
No, but
No. You go ahead. I apologize.
yeah, I remember people telling me you got to hate them from Southern California, and I'm like, I don't even know them. You know what I mean? There was no Sureño Southsiders in Tracy growing up. The first one I ever saw that was actually, I'm sure I met a lot of people from LA, but I'm saying that came up here banging Sur, I was already 18.
Mm-hmm.
But this was indoctrinated into me when I was a young teen,
Yeah.
but I didn't see it as indoctrination. I saw it as well, they say I got to hate them, so I hate, you know, so we get stuff put into us, into our minds, that we don't even know where that truth came from, or where that, not truth, where that belief came from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so then when you bring somebody to Christ, there's a lot that has to happen, and there's a lot of things that have to be broken within us, you know, and I think that that's a huge part of that change, right? I mean, so when you say how people change, are you talking toward the positive or toward the negative?
I think how people change for the positive for the most part,
Okay.
because the negative seems to come very natural.
Yeah, right. Ever since Adam and Eve.
Yeah, ever since Adam and Eve, it kind of been downhill, you know.
Yeah.
They're kind of born with it, right?
Yeah. So kind of like what you said is people say, okay, that's fine. You're telling me how to do it, but how do I do it? Or what'd you say?
Yeah, but how? And
Yeah,
that's the
how?
question, is how. And for us as believers, we know that the power's in the gospel.
Yeah.
Right? And for us, it's an assumed thing. Like, we just know that's where that power comes from. It's like, if you're going to break gravity, you need a power, right? You need a law that's stronger than the law than gravity to help break that gravity. And that's going to be the gospel,
Yeah.
right? But when people don't know, or they've only been exposed to religion, you know, or
Yeah.
you know,
Good.
things like that, how are they supposed to change? Like, it doesn't work. I've been to church, you know, I've been there, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and so I
And
think
then, but Christians make up the bumper sticker like, oh, it's not about the church, it's about a relationship. But what does that mean, right?
What does
That's
it
what
mean?
they're saying. What does that mean?
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What does the fibers look like? What is it tangibly? If I'm, you know, I know one time we spent some time over in San Francisco at We Are Church when they took us around, and
Yeah.
we got to see the men's home, the women's home, and all that stuff. And one of the things that was just glaring was the church is preaching at, you know, let's say a mother, and she's out in the street, she's a prostitute, she whatever, she's got 2 or 3 kids, and we're telling her, dude, you got to be a good mom.
Yeah.
You got to you got to, you know, give your life to Christ, surrender, be a good mom, find a good man, you know, be a wife, and all these things of what we're throwing at them of what they need to be. And then the question was to us when we were there was like, but who's going to teach them what that looks like?
Yeah.
And that's when they were talking about, well, this is why we move individuals in, so my wife can show them how what it is, what it's like to prepare a meal.
And that goes to socialization.
Absolutely.
Right? Community building. And I think there's a lot of power in that. There is, through that embodiment, by being immersed, you know, through immersion. That's how you learn. It's like if you try to learn, you know, Spanish, and you don't know Spanish or some other language, and you're just trying to learn it from online or a book or something, versus throwing you in that community. You know, you're going to pick up that immersion, you know, and so that context, that environment, it has an impact on you, and it hits different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where a lot of change is going to happen. And I think when it comes down to that change, it's really core concerns. Like, what are people's core concerns? At one point in time, back in like old school Pentecostal and stuff like that, you know, that's a lot of our background. Is you know, you heard about heaven and hell, you heard about eternity, you heard about things like that, and they mattered. Now, if you talk to people about heaven and hell today, those are like afterthoughts. Like, oh, that's a luxury thought, you know.
Yeah.
So coming to a place of change, like where is the pain hitting them now? And a lot of people are lost. They don't have identity, and I know that's why I've always valued your teaching on identity.
Yeah.
Because people don't have an identity. And so if they could find a clique or a tribe or somebody to validate them, you know, affirm them, then that's where they're going to go. And truth is relational.
Yeah.
You know, it's not so much that people are searching for truth exhaustively.
You know, as you're talking, well, first of all, you asked when did it start, and I like what Felipe said. Is it started with Obama, right? It says, where did he write it at?
On the very bottom.
Yeah, it started with Obama, the American communist mindset, right? And so the other thing is too, is like, I try to be real with myself, and you know, I'm the dad today, right? So I'm that generation that's the parent. And unfortunately, of my generation is one of the worst of no dads in the home. So it's us going around fornicating, in the words of the Bible.
Yep.
Being a man, the old saying is you're man enough to make a child, but not man enough to raise one, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care what community or what color you are, because it happened in all of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's not just one, not here, not there. It happened all over the United States and elsewhere. So my thing is one of the questions is how many young men are growing up without a dad? You know, one of the things is
majority.
I listen to my children. I have 4 boys, okay, and all four of my young men that have grown up, they've all had friends to where their friends thought I was cool, okay, and that's not a like boast on my part. And the only reason I say that is because my children didn't think I was like, dude, don't hype my dad up. Don't blow my dad's head up. He's feeling himself way too much, or whatever it may be, right? But the thing about it is what I didn't understand is I started really thinking, and I didn't catch this until maybe about 3-4 years ago, but my youngest one, who's 15 years old, he had a friend who has no dad. The dad was there, but he was a bum dad, and he ended up getting strung out on dope and then ended up leaving, right? So you might as well not have a dad. That's what I'm getting at. So then the boy likes to come and hang out with me, and he was like, hey man, don't blow my dad's head up, man. You're making him feel himself and blah 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 blah. And my parents were always home. Or, you know, I grew up with a mom and dad. My stupidity was all my choice, okay? So the thing what I'm getting at is that they used to want to come over to my house. I'd be like, nah, bro, let's go to your pad because we can do all the stupidness over there. Smoke and drink and whatever else dumbness, right? Let's go to your pad. It's cooler there. I didn't understand that they were missing what my dad was giving to them. Structure. Yeah. Don't talk like that in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like, your dad's not around, so I get to whoop you. Yeah. That kind of stuff, right? Like, and that's what they were attracted to. Yeah. And so we get these men, or we get these boys who grow up and now are in men bodies that are still boys.
Well, nobody was there to teach them.
Exactly. So then now we look at them as like, oh, this, oh, that statistic of society and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine and dandy and all, but how many of them have scars in their mind of just missing? That's why I'm sure that you pastors have all met men where they just, when you hug them, they crumble. They crumble. These are gangsters, bro. These are strong. I mean, I've been very fortunate to know some killers in my life, okay? And
did you say fortunate?
Yes. And so, like, when I've hugged them in my Christianity life today, these dudes are gangsters, man. These are dudes you don't mess with. I am not one of them dudes. Let me just make that clear. I am not trying to be one of them dudes. But I know some dudes who you don't mess with, right? And when I would hug them because they're just being so vulnerable, Christ has opened them up to be vulnerable, and then I go and I was like, hey bro, can I just hug you? Real talk, dog. Can I just give you a hug? Talk. And then they just crumble and then just start. It's a waterfall like TLC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely amazing. How many young boys do we know with no dad in the home? And it's just on recruiting. And then they grow up with women. And then we're surprised at what Obama's pushing, how they go ahead and just fall into all of the transgender and the pride and all of that stuff. We get surprised at that? I mean, what else? They're young men who have to take on responsibility of a man.
Yeah.
Because their mom is like, well, now you're the man in the house. And it's just like that for a man, because that's just how God has made us in the DNA to be secure and to take care of whoever's in our life. We immediately trigger. And unfortunately, in the hood, we don't go to get a job, most of us, right? We go to hustle.
Yeah.
And then we get caught up in all of that stuff. But that's my thing on when it comes to the changing. I've been very, very fortunate to watch men change their lives. Men who, wow, man, like, those are the men who, how can you not believe in a loving God when you see those men and when you hear their testimony, and it's just like, wow, God loves you, bro, and he's done everything for you. It's just absolutely amazing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
This is
Go
short.
ahead.
I just remember, I think you had said on the Facebook that maybe a lot of men need less pastors and more fathers. Some to that effect.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's all.
No, I was just going to say, going back to, I don't think it started with Obama. It started way before Obama.
Yeah, it started way before.
Way before Obama stepped in. I think it made it to a degree culturally relevant on the table.
Are you talking about as far as the communist mindset?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Obama made it digestible to the average person without realizing.
Good.
The second part,
He packaged it.
He packaged it well, but he wasn't. I don't believe this because at that time there was still so much going on. He wasn't the lead person in the sense to take it to that next level. It had to be a different type of a person. It couldn't be a politician. So it came to a local that grew up in this area by the name of Colin Kaepernick, who would not kneel.
Let me move this away from me.
As far as he was the 49er quarterback. Let's just get that straight, because he didn't play for the Raiders. He played for the 49ers. And growing up in Turlock. And when that not kneeling part came through, did that not send shockwaves? Because now, not only was it, it had been already presented in a digestible way. Now that spark and flint became a fire, because it was an average person.
Yeah.
To him, minding his own business, and they needed someone to take that torch and run with it. And so I think that's really important, because I remember watching a podcast, and we talked about it here, where they said, okay, we had talked about cultural Christians.
Yeah.
And we said, man, and I told him, I said, it makes me so angry whenever anyone like Dawkins or Elon Musk say, well, I'm a cultural Christian. And the Christian church was like, oh my gosh, let's throw a jersey on them. Why? Because they said something positive about us. They weren't saying anything positive.
Yeah.
They were saying, I like your morals, but I don't want your Jesus.
Yeah.
That's not a positive statement at all. And so then the conversation in that podcast was, when is Christianity going to have someone of notoriety to take that torch and be the face of the movement?
We already got him.
Forgetting it's Jesus.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to
the shoes nobody can fill.
to that degree is here's the issue within Christianity, and I think
that was the issue Israel had before when they wanted a king.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
But this is where the current stuff, where we were talking about Israel, war, all this stuff that's happening, this is where the pressure is being pushed. And this is where diamonds and pearls are made. And out of that from Christ, there must be men that stand their ground and now become the forefront, not of necessarily, is it of a community or is it of a state, governor, political? That's all fine. But we were talking about fathers. Masculinity,
Family.
fathers, family.
Which brings it to what Cholo Trucker just said. He says, you can have good mentors, but nothing will replace a good father, and politicians don't preach that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I've always said, when you look at Titus, Paul goes and sends Titus to Crete.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sit there and says, hey, man, let's work through this, and we got to create institutions.
Yeah.
What does he begin with? As far as, elders and deacons, that's true. But what does he deal with? Home. Peter, dealing with the church during a time of pressure and persecution, what does he hone in on? Home.
Family unit.
The family unit.
Ephesians as well.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like, when you can't do anything and all you have is a Bible and a candle, this is what we must do.
Yeah.
And this is where we have to be focused in all of that stuff, because the changing, we may need more mental health institutions, and counseling and all those things are true. But if we don't have people walking out the gospel in those elements outside of secular culture, what hope do they have? What hope?
What does it say here? Cholo Trucker said, progressive Christian is the new term I'm hearing. And Felipe says, these cultural Christians are wolves in sheep's clothing infiltrators. Wow. Fathers, here's the thing, is that my wife has said this. she said that there's a lot of women that are the man leaves, and that's a whole other issue that I have with men. That's a whole other issue. It's not cool. I did that to my family when I was before Christ, but a lot of women think they can raise boys. I think some do better job than others, but
Takes a man to raise a man.
yes, and this is something my wife has admitted, because she was raising Abraham alone, and she finally said, there's things, not finally, I think she always believed this, but she just couldn't, there was no men, you know what I mean? That she was, I thank God, because you have taught Abraham how to be a man. Because there's stuff that he did, remember when he was young? Well, I don't know if you remember, but when he would get upset or things would upset him, he would act like his mom. Can't blame him.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
his only reference.
that was his only reference. But now, it's different now.
Yeah.
Because he sees an example. Oh, that's not how men get upset. Because women, and my wife will say, she was, we're emotional, we're this, we're that. You know what I mean? She was like, yeah, I'm emotional. She was, the last thing I want is an emotional man. She was, because when I'm in my emotions, you got to be that oak tree.
Yeah.
And but I thank God that now, because he's been with me now for almost, since he was 11 or 12.
Young.
And he has seen me. So now he had a different reference point he has seen me get upset. He has seen me disagree with his mother. He has seen and he sees that I don't go into emotions also. You know what I mean? And so she has said, man, I thank God that you raised Abraham.
Yeah.
Because you did something I could have never done. So fathers, man. I don't think our subject wasn't fathers, but yeah.
But that's the changing. I think that plays a key role in your question.
Yes.
As far as people, men changing or people changing,
And what they grow up believing.
and what they grow up believing.
It says, remember, our society praises single mothers instead of intact families.
Yeah.
I know my wife, and then I'll leave this subject alone and let you guys go. I know my wife herself. We read a book years ago. It's called Love and Respect.
Good book.
And
I
it's by
read that.
Emerson Eggerichs. And the thing about it is, it was talking about a husband and a wife, right? And in there, Emerson talks about a time called shoulder time. And what he's saying is, women, you need to understand that when your husband and you are in the car and he doesn't say anything, he's not mad at you. He's communicating with you by just sitting there with you. He's excited that you are next to him. And that's basically, I'm paraphrasing in what he said. Mm-hmm. So my wife went ahead and took that a step further, because she's a mother of all men, right? And she had to, one of her biggest things was...
Oh, yeah, you guys don't have daughters.
No. One of her biggest things is that she had to understand that these men they're young men, and that God has raised them, and men want to be respected, right?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, and so she had, I would tell her, like, yo, you can't talk to them like that. Like, I get it, you need your mom, you're in charge, I'm gonna back you up, let them know, but you're degrading them in what you just said. And she was like, but this, I said, I get it, I'm just saying, you're degrading them. So she took it upon herself, and that's all I'm gonna say. She'll come on here and explain herself if she wanted to. But one of the things is she learned to take drives with her sons, and they would just drive wherever they were going, and nothing was said. They would get out of the car. Let's say they were going for a couple of different stores. Let's say they were doing Ross, TJ Maxx, and somewhere else, man. And then they go home. They would talk while they're in the store, get back in the car, and not say a word. She was like, "This weird," and I was like, "Yeah, but look at him. He's getting you something to drink. He was, hey, how was your day with your mom? Oh, it was fun. I had so much fun. How was your conversation with your mom? Oh, I loved it, man. We talked about this. We talked about this. And she's looking at me with a, I said, I told you. So that's all I got to say, man.
Yeah. You know what's kind of interesting is, we're talking about how did we get here? And you're talking about, I know it's going towards the communist thought or whatever, but, people talk about millennials, right?
Yeah.
What type of people millennials are now, right? And then I've heard the thing say, well, who made the millennials?
Oh, ouch.
That's what I said.
Right? It goes back to that. But even going back further, while he was talking, a thought popped in my head about going from agricultural society
Yep.
to industrialization. Started taking the man away from the home. And they had to start leaving the house. And the family started to change its structure.
Oh, because the boys were always with mom.
Yeah.
Well, if you study even that further, and you go into World War I, and how many women began to work in the industry,
Yeah.
and in the industrial age, and started kind of working through, and they realized, what do we do?
Hey, Brother Gabriel. How you doing?
And you look at that. That's why, like for me, one of my big things I just is, if you want to know where in any country, but let's say the United States, if you want to know where the United States stood, go study its theology at the time. If you study the theology at the time, you will find out, you will discover the heartbeat of the culture at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
And whether it's a lack of, right, or a lot of, in something else. But I was just going to say too, when I started just kind of going into, understanding the new creation, who you are in Christ, identity. And that was 2014, 15. And one of the things that I started catching was I started hearing a statement at that time that I started hearing more and more and more. And now it's just common language in the church. And it's mind renewal. Everything is mind renewal. I'll tell you, every sermon is mind renewal. Nobody explains it. Nobody tells what to do with it. But it's mind renewal. And I always tell people, mind renewal is it's not a biblical statement. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
What do you renew your mind to is the dictating factor. It's a truth. And I knew you let me just say this one statement. Because here's something that we say all the time as men. And we say, don't be emotional. See, non-emotion is not correct. It's having dominion over our emotions to know how to maneuver that on a daily basis.
When our emotions are led by the Spirit of God, it goes crazy.
Yeah, like for my 3-year-old. The other day, he's outside and we're in the backyard, and he's a boy. So what do I teach him? Go pee wherever you want, dude. There's a tree, go pee. And so he has, but he has this thing with his mom is he'll go pee at the at the bush, come back, and he wants mom to pick up his shorts. Right? He walks back so mom can pick up his shorts. And so she's like, pick up your shorts. And I said, I'm not doing that. Pick up your shorts. I told Ezra. And he just looked at me, and he looks at mom, and she was like, just pick up his shorts. He doesn't understand it. He understands very well what I'm telling him.
Yeah.
And so we were going back and forth. Every time I tell him, he'd look at mom 3 times. Right? And I'm just going, Ezra, pick up your shorts. Pick up your shorts. Ezra. And then finally, now, you know what changed? Pick up your shorts. And you know what Ezra does? He picks up his shorts.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to relate that, because sometimes we put so much pressure on men not to be themselves. That's not what we're asking them to do. We're asking them to operate as a believer from what they already have, which is that dominion, the fruits of the Spirit. If it's in fruit form or seed, it's still there.
Yeah.
So we're talking cultivation and allowing them to grow into that, which is a huge part of the church that we failed, because this will segue into the next statement. We don't have discipleship in the church. We have teaching. We don't have the fivefold ministry. That's not present. And this is not a degradation to any pastor, but we are led by pastors. Where's the other 4? That bring everything into circle that it needs to be to have the fullness of Christ in its maturity.
Just shout out Mexican Chicano. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Carlos, I know you want. You look, you had like you were ready to go.
Yeah, I was
go for it.
You get to close it, bro.
Yeah. So when it comes to the discipleship and the change, like one of the core things like that I have to teach in my groups and stuff to men, whether it was at the prison or where I work now, and it goes to the church too. And it's something no one can get away from, Christian or non-Christian, is a concept called core beliefs. Okay.
Yeah.
Core beliefs are what you believe about yourself. What you truly believe about others, and what you believe about the world, right? And usually you know what you believe about yourself when you say, I am ... Whatever you feel that in naturally, that's truly what you believe about yourself, okay? And so getting to the I am in a man or a woman is the beginning of the change. Because so for example, let's say there's a child that is in a crib, they're crying. Okay, when does someone start to learn? Is it cognitive? Are they learning because they have to think, or do they start learning before they start thinking? Okay, a baby's in a crib. Huh?
They see, right? Visual? Or?
Well, even visual, but experience. You're experiencing things before you comprehend what you're experiencing.
True.
So if a child's in a crib crying and no one comes, they learn that my cry doesn't matter, even though they don't know how to process that.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you think about it, you grow up in a home, your cry doesn't matter. You grow up believing what I have to say, what I have to think doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay? So that leads to beliefs. So no matter what anybody tells you, my experience tells me otherwise.
Yeah.
Right? And it kind of goes to, I remember T.D. Jakes, he said, it's always stuck with me. I'm not condoning Diddy's friend, but
back to Diddy.
he's just the talk, right? But my thing is that he said that always stuck with me. And I remember he shares in the prison, and the guys were like, they felt it.
Yeah.
He said when he was a little boy, he would just, bump his gums. He goes, you know how I became so confident as a speaker, how I became so strong in believing what I say? He said, because when I was a little boy and I spoke, my mom didn't go, yeah, 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 or push me out the kitchen. She'd go, yeah, baby, and then what? And then what? And then what? And he said, so I grew up believing that what I thought, that what I felt, and that what I had to say mattered.
Yeah. And, I can second that, man, because we grew up going to Mexican Spanish churches. I didn't want to hear Spanish preaching because I think in English. It's too much work to translate in my head. So my mom made a deal to me. She goes, listen, you're either going to pay attention to the sermon or I want you to read the Bible, because I loved reading. So I would read the Bible. I'm like, man, that's easy. I thought she was like giving me, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to read the Bible. So afterward though, she'd be like, what did you read? What did you learn? And she would hear me out. I was basically teaching her what I read in my words. And I didn't realize what she was building up in me. I thought I was getting away by getting a pass from not listening to this preacher. But she was instilling something in me. Not only the word of God, but the fact that she was hearing me out and listening to it. I was like, look what it says here, and this and whatever, So like, it was building that confidence to the fact that I can now stand in front of a congregation and do the same thing.
Yeah, she was discipling you, man.
Somebody recently I was on the phone with, and they were telling me how they were working through some stuff, emotionally they were dealing with some things. And he says, I'm just been studying the fear of God and studying who God is, who God is to me. And so, we're kind of going through, and I'm watching the evolution of his life as he's growing in Christ. And I thought of that question, going back to change. Who is God to me? These core beliefs, but that will only get you to a certain place that you have to ask the next question. Who am I to him? Because then that goes full circle. Because then you can close that loop, and then now you begin to understand how that plays out to others. Who am I to God, and who, who is God to me, and who am I to him? And I think, in the Christian context of the gospel, that's the message. How we work that through. To when Peter's preaching it in Acts 2, there's a lot of scripture. When Paul preaches it in Acts 17 or 19 on Mars Hill, there's no scripture, but he uses an example. Cultural reference. And it all goes back, but it's going back. And that's actually Paul's message. He goes, that unknown God, you didn't understand, but it's him.
Yeah.
And in that, let me tell you who that creator, because he calls him creator. And he goes into, okay, he made the earth. We're all race of one man, of one blood. And he brings all that into circle to go, this is who God is to you.
Yeah.
Now here's the question. Who are you?
Where do you stand with him?
Yeah, where do you stand with him in that? And that's the part where a lot of the times, going back to just in the change, I think that's the struggle. Let's take out the secular side of it in the church. I think that's the part that's missing within the congregations and the sermons, is because we're telling them these things, but the part that we're lacking is the walking out with them, giving them safe space to make mistakes, learn how to grow and be a father and make mistakes.
Yeah.
But you can only do that, like you're saying, shoulder to shoulder and face to face. And that's where YouTube can't do. It can train you and equip you and get you information, but what it can't do is that face to face, and that's what's needed. As far as for the changes to take place in a man or a woman's life, they have to have the tangibility of a human being.
And a lot of that's just accountability.
Absolutely.
Straight up.
Absolutely.
That's a dangerous word.
Well, you want to segue to the last part?
Well, I wanted to say this real quick. Is I think ultimately, like you said something earlier, I don't remember what, but it made me think of this and I wrote it down. Oh, when you mentioned identity, I think identity teaching is really important because I've heard that I'm horrible with plants, unless they're in my aquarium. But sometimes
they get watered daily that way.
They get watered daily and fertilized. The fish fertilize them. Is that in order to heal a plant that's dying, it's not about taking care of the leaf. It's not about taking care of the branches. It's about the roots. Because if you have the roots strong in the plant will be strong. If the roots are strong in a plant, the plant will flourish. And I think in this is what's dangerous about mainstream Christianity, is it's trying to clean your leaves. And it's trying to fix your branches, and it never goes down to the roots. And this is why I don't understand. Like, I grew up in churches, never surrendered to the Lord till I was 32. But I had enough memories of what some preachers did that didn't help. Like I used to go once in a while to the church Angel was assistant pastor and youth pastor. And man, I shouldn't have said that because I'm going to take shots. I don't mean that, but I'm just using an example.
Go for it.
As a non-believer, I'll tell you what I didn't like is when I would visit the church. It was a big church. How many people sat in there?
The church was about 600, but that was a Sunday service.
A Sunday service. This bothered me as a non-believer. I would show up and they would worship, and I'm just like, okay, clapping for like an hour at Pentecostal church. And it wasn't until the last song, in the middle of the last song, that I would see the pastor come out of his green room. And almost like a king or the Pope coming in. And then he would go up on stage because his chair was there. And I'm just like, in my mind, as a non-believer, as a straight gang, I probably had a gun in my pocket. And I'm like, if I need to worship to God, doesn't he too?
Yep.
Where was he at? Why is he not worshiping? If he's the one that's going to give the word, why is he not worshiping even more than everybody here? Now, he could have been in prayer. He could have, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was doing, but I'm just saying as a non-believer, gang-banging dude, you know what I mean? And I say that because of that example, and he could have been doing something righteous in the green room. I don't know. But because of that example, where am I at after service on Sunday?
In the lobby with all the people.
In the lobby. Where am I before service? Well, you're usually not there. You're right on time, but
No.
you're there?
Yeah.
I'm in the lobby.
Yeah, typically you're in the lobby.
Because
you go
what
from the tables.
Calling you
Yeah.
out, man. Calling you out.
I know. Put it on blast. I'm there, aren't I?
but to me,
Praying
it's
for
like
you. You're welcome.
to me, it's about the roots. I wish I could spread myself out into 200 people, but I can't. But I will say this, is that I think I teach more when I'm off the pulpit by just being with the people as much as I possibly can, because I only have 24 hours in a day just like every other human. But I try to tell people, listen, and I always say this a lot. I said, your walk better be a lot louder than your talk. We need to lead by example. If Paul can say, follow me as I follow Christ, then we should be able to say the same thing. If we can't say that, something's wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be behind the pulpit. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know where we're going, but.
Well, even with the roots thing, I really like that because I can't help but think the roots have to be in soil.
Yeah.
Right? And that soil is either healthy or not healthy, right? And those decisions as a leader to sit with the people and statements, right, that I know from the very beginning when I met you in House of Reds Church, which made me love this church. Like, I mean, if I was in Modesto, you know, I'd be here, man. But you said Jesus is a senior pastor.
Yeah.
It was statements like that,
Yeah.
the being relational, sitting with the people, always being down to earth. Those are the type of things that created the soil that made me be able to trust, to receive from you at a deeper level. Because I think all of us can have somewhat of a suspicious mindset or questioning mindset of the man talking behind the pulpit, you know. But to just experience, once again, that goes into, I'm experiencing something different because I'm experiencing relationship.
You know what's
very true.
You know what an aquarium plant does? Very strange. I learned this because when you put an aquarium plant, you're putting it in aquarium rocks. There's no nutrients there. So you have to buy these they're called root tabs. And you have to bury them everywhere in your, it's basically fertilizer because those are just rocks. How's a plant going to grow on just rocks? You know, you buy the purple and green aquarium rocks. You know, I have natural color, but still there's no nutrients, it's just rocks. So you put these root tabs. I learned that because I didn't know, I have had plastic plants for years and years and years, and then I said, I'm going to switch over during COVID. I'm like, I'm bored. Let me make my aquarium and switch it to, you know, real plants. So I bought all these plants and planted them everywhere. And all of a sudden, they started growing these weird roots and hairs all over the plants. I'm like, what's happening here? Why is it doing this? Here's why. Because they were buried, the roots are buried, there was no nutrients. And when there's no nutrients in the soil, the plant tries to grow roots out of its branches unnaturally.
Oh, wow.
To try to suck in nutrients. And that is what's happening. That is why if there is no place in the church, in the house of God, or no place where there's discipleship, there's nowhere to be rooted, people start looking out in unnatural ways for other places to get nutrients.
Very good.
Well,
Bam.
Bam.
Dude, you know,
Mic drop. No, just
that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
I was going to spike it.
That you say that because you know what? I just learned that with succulents. So my wife was saying, so we have some succulents by the door, and they're
to propagate them.
They're trying to
Grow forward?
Yeah, they grow this way. They're growing
Towards the sun.
Yeah, and what I'm getting at is she says, you know why they're doing that? And she just read it on Google too, because anyways.
Don't call out your wife on the
No,
plans,
that's what I said. Anyways, she says that what they're doing is they're searching for the sun.
Yeah.
And it's funny that he says that because that is a mic drop. Because I'm telling you, man, when you put that on your heart, when you carve that on your heart, man, you can almost get too holy everywhere you go because you can always find something of that word to be in your life today.
Yeah.
And so we sat there for like maybe 2 minutes, nothing crazy. We didn't like pond on it and have a Selah moment or nothing like that. But it did really like make us think like, wow, rooted plants are always searching for sun. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to do. We need to stay rooted in that so that way we can search for the sun, you know. And it's
The sun with the O?
The sun with the O, that's right.
Well, you know, when Peter preaches in Acts 2 and he closes his sermon, and what he said, this same Jesus whom you crucified, that he had been that he is both Lord and Christ.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the simple statements whenever I'm ministering to somebody and they're struggling, whether it's emotional, spiritual, whatever, one of the things I will always have them just repeat with me is, if they're believers, Jesus is Lord. The simplicity of that statement and the overarching of what that means as they can just repeat it. And I'll just tell them, just repeat this. Just stay with me for a minute. And just Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. And you'll find so many people get caught up in after saying it a little bit because they're beginning to think about it. And because that's why I know a couple of weeks ago we were talking about, I made a statement. I said, most people it's not that people are going, hey, I serve Satan, I drink blood. That's not the mindset of the world that's on the forefront. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Of course it does. But most people, that's not their Lord. The enemy, the devil's not just trying to go, hey, I want to get everybody to worship me that way. And so up front, it'd be too boisterous. So it's much more conniving. No, let me convince you you're Lord. Let you bow to you because you bow to me. And that's the way the enemy works. And so, like, just even with this shirt, he who kneels before God can stand before anyone. That has to be the mindset of the message for change to take place. Because remember, we would have conversations, David, years ago. We'd go, why is it when we were growing up, alcoholics would drug addicts would come to the altar, give their life to Jesus, and never look back?
Yeah.
When did that change?
Now it's a
journey. Everything's a journey. I'm not saying that that's not true to an extent.
Yeah, because I've seen both happen.
Yeah.
But,
You know, you said what you said right now. One moment.
Yeah.
You said what you said right now, and you know what it made me think of is everything that Satan offered Jesus. Is that what people are falling for today?
yeah, I thought of that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what they're falling
Absolutely.
for today, man? I never thought about it like that, man.
I'll give you everything.
Yeah.
Just bow to me.
Yeah. Or whenever he said that for the bread, like if he's really your God, then turn that into bread. And he said, well, man can't live off of bread alone.
Yeah.
They're falling for what he offered in the desert to Jesus. That's
Falling for the banana and the tailpipe tree.
Even the Satanic Bible is the story of him being the good person through that, and giving man
Changing
enlightenment,
Yeah.
giving man enlightenment to be Lord over his own life, to be a God.
wild.
That's the mindset.
Real quick, I just want to, Mexican Chicano said, 1 Timothy 3:5, modern society, job application built upon job experiences to qualify for a job. Ancient culture, family was the experience to show whether a person was ready for greater responsibility. Yeah, and Felipe says, pruning hurts, but it's necessary for new growth.
Amen.
That is true. That is true.
It's not fun.
I want to save the next one for the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, okay, Felipe says, off subject, hey, Angel, you should do that class, how to witness. To be honest, I wish I was better at it. And then he
Amen.
said, New Age, New Thought teaches that we are our own gods. They take Psalm 82:6 out of context. Yeah.
Hey, brother, we
Thank
should
you.
put something. We should put something together on a Saturday.
You tell me when, you tell me my job, and I will help you out.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Put a witnessing ministry class together, and then go hit the streets.
No, that'd be great.
On a
That'd be
Saturday.
great. Well, we have a whole group to hit the streets, but I'm sure that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Role play.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll be the gang member. Just
Thank-
reach me.
Thank you, Sister Phyllis, for the idea. You're gonna see it flesh out now.
You reach me, he says.
Oh, I didn't realize it was Phyllis. I said Felipe. It was Phyllis that asked that, huh?
Yeah, Sister Phyllis.
Amen. You called me. Yeah. Well, it's because your letters are real small. So I thought I read Felipe because it was
Yes.
above you, but
Last
yeah.
time you had it like super huge.
I know. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we'll make it bigger.
I don't know what
We're at
happened.
an hour and 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. The next subject, though, next week we're gonna talk about the spiritual leaders falling. But I want to thank you guys for being here. Carlos, we're gonna have you in the next week's episode. So I appreciate that. But I hope. What'd you think? First of all, what was your experience here?
That was fun, man. It was kind of, it's kind of like a first date. You know what I mean? Just, just filling things out.
Everybody putting their good foot forward.
It's like, just, finding your vibe, finding your place, But this is great, man. It's a
Yeah,
good time.
I know you had told him like, "Oh man, I got to do some homework," and we're like, "No, we're gonna freestyle this thing," because here's the thing: is nobody here is a politician, nobody here is a war analyst, nobody. We're just regular Americans that just we want to talk about this stuff in an average way, And so, I mean, it's not like you got to do homework. It's about that's why we call it. Let's just talk, and.
Answer out of your spirit.
No,
man.
nobody's an analyst. Nobody's an expert. But here's what the thing that we do bring is the perspective of God through the Word of God, and all these issues. How does it tie into the Word? Because the Bible is always relevant, but we enjoy having you here, and hopefully it was a good
Yes.
experience.
No, it was good. Hope to come back soon.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Maybe even next week.
Yep.
Well,
Maybe.
probably not next week. Going on an anniversary trip in the weekend, so.
Oh yeah, you guys going to the coast?
Yeah. No, we're actually gonna go to LA and go run
Okay.
around
How many
LA,
years?
And then 17 years.
Praise
Amen.
God. Congratulations.
I know
man.
you got like going to Cambria.
Yeah, we do, but we burn those places out. We try new things. Yeah, I'm gonna go hang around LA, go to Universal Studios. I want to do something a little different, just have some fun.
We were just talking about the tram ride.
The what?
The tram ride at Universal Studios.
Oh, yeah.
Just yesterday we were talking
that's right.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that thing's fun.
We'll be there.
And just to kind of close it out, because I know Mom's watching, I know you would listen to me more talk, Mom, than David, because I was your favorite. Just wanted to throw that out there for all
Cholo.
those
We
listeners.
got 2 preachers here, so it's
Hey
worked
Cholo,
out.
man, seriously, man, let me know when you can come up. Let's join us on Tuesday on one of these. Phyllis says, I enjoy it. She says Trump 2024. All right. So that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. God bless you. Thank you so much. See you next week. Let's just talk.